Medical Intuitive Insights with your host, Dr. Gloria Warren, is a program that presents topics on medical intuition, holistic opportunities outside of mainstream society, and scientific research as applied today. Topics range from online intuitive readings to interviews unveiling alternative healing modalities and discussing them with inspirational leaders. Dr. Warren is the bridge within holistic arts while stressing the balance between the spiritual and physical self. So now, please welcome the host of Medical Intuitive Insights, Dr. Gloria Warren.
Is your memory declining? Is technology rewiring your brain? And what protects neural wiring? What is neural wiring? Welcome to Medical Intuitive and Insights. I'm Dr. Gloria Warren. Today, I'm going to discuss memory, not just forgetfulness, but the biology of how memory forms, how it is insulated, and how our environment influences it, especially in today's world. Topic is memory, myelin, environment, and technology. We'll explore the myelin sheath inside the brain and tell you exactly what it is, environmental influences that may influence it in a negative way, technology and 5G research, what it actually is, and practical research-supported resolutions. So, how does memory work? Memory is not stored in a single location. It's a network biological process. The hippocampus plays a critical role in forming new declarative memories, and the prefrontal cortex assists with organizational retrieval. You ever have that problem that you can't retrieve in your mind something you're trying to remember? I think it's happened to all of us, but sometimes more so than what it should. So at a synaptic level, memory depends on long-term protection. The strengthening of synaptic connections between neurons following repeated activation. These are all, everything I talk about today is backed up by scientific scholarly research from universities and organizations. That's all they do. So, memory, what does it require? A lot of people ask me that question. Synaptic plasticity. It has to be pliable. Efficient neural conduction and mitochondrial energy, adequate blood flow, and sleep-dependent consolidation. So we have the neural condition, the mitochondrial energy that we've spoken about in our past programs. So my suggestion is look that up. It's very important to know what mitochondrial energy is about. Adequate blood flow and sleep-dependent consolidation. But signal strength is only part of the story. Signal speed depends on the myelin sheath. Okay, and I'll explain that in a little bit. Let's look at the slides, though, that I have, because I think this simplifies it, makes it very easy to remember. So slide 1, please. While they're getting that, though, the myelin is a fatty insulated sheath. It kind of covers it up. If you look at the illustration there, you have the neuron on the left. And that neuron has dendrites at the end. They're like little fingertips and everything. And then you have the nodes in between. You have the axon, which is like the tail, so to speak. And around that tail, you have sections called the Schwann cells. And they roll, and you can see that little roll in the center of the illustration. That's the myelin sheath. This is what we're talking about today. What happens when this myelin sheath gets eroded or starts to just disappear? And what makes it disappear? Why does it start to do this? So we're going to talk about that. So myelin is approximately 70% to 80% fats, lipids, 20 to 30% proteins. So those lipid portions are made up of cholesterol, phospholipids, glycolipids, and sphingomyelin. what happens when this is damaged, when the myelin breaks down, signals become slow. Signals become erratic, and energy demands are increased. Axons can degenerate, and that's that long, like axle rod coming up from the top of that neuron. That actually starts to degenerate. So the myelin sheath protects the axons. So that's really important to think about. It's simple. I'm glad we can do this in today's science. We know what's going on. But examples of this, simple examples would be multiple sclerosis, Guillain-Barré syndrome, that's the demyelination of the myelin sheath, and other diseases, Alzheimer's. I'm an epidemiologist, and I see Alzheimer's as becoming an epidemic. That is why I am doing this show. I think it's very important. Next slide, please. So this is a neuron. Again, a neuron is a nerve cell. It has three main parts: the dendrites that receive messages, the cell body that processes those messages, and the axon sends the messages. It sends it to perhaps another neuron to stimulate memory or whatever it's trying to do at the time. Think of the axon as a long extension cord. Some axons are very long, running from your spinal cord all the way up to your toes, or all the way to your toes. I say down to your toes, actually, sorry. Next slide, please. This is a close-up of the myelin sheath. The myelin is insulation. It wraps around the axon like a plastic coating around an electrical wire. It's kind of the same, similar type of scenario, made of mostly fat protein. Because it's mostly fat, it acts like insulation, helping signals move faster and preventing signal loss. You know, in your house, you can have a wire in the wall and it starts to fray. You're actually losing energy where that opening is. That fraying of the wire can come out in the middle of the wire into the walls. You're losing energy. It's the same thing with the myelin sheath. If it goes away, you lose energy. So you may not be able to remember as quickly either. Without the myelin sheath, signals would become slow, messages get distorted, energy use increases. In other words, it takes more energy to try and think. With the myelin, signals jump from one gap to another, from one neuron to another. Messages move very quickly. The system is very efficient, usually. Those small gaps between the myelin segments are also called nodes of Renvier. That's where the signal boosts itself and keeps on going. So it keeps going and going and going, but if there's fraying, it may not have the energy to go because it's using up the energy just to travel across the axon. And now those are my slides. I didn't really have many today, but I thought it'd be best to see exactly what I'm talking about in this scenario. So the myelin sheath is fatty insulated layer around the axons. Its purpose, increase conduction velocity. So it increases that velocity. It goes faster and faster if it's covered completely where it should be. It improves signal fidelity. It's more that's going to be correct with the signaling, and reduces neural noise. So research has shown that the white matter integrity, including the myelin, plays a critical role in learning and cognitive processing speeds. By the way, that's Fields 2008 in his study. Chronic stress and inflammation can impair dendrocyte function and myelin maintenance. That's Louis in 2012. The eyes, though, this is a very interesting thing. This is something everybody should know because the eyes are an indicator of myelin health. So if you have bad vision, listen closely. There's another powerful indicator, that myelin integrity, that we can observe directly within the eyes. The optic nerve is not a peripheral nerve, what people may think. It is a direct extension of the central nervous system. It is myelinated by the oligodendrocytes, the same cells that myelinate axons in the brain. This means the optic nerve is a visible extension of the brain's white matter. When myelin is compromised, the eyes often show early signs of optic nerve damage. Yeah, you heard that right. Optic neuritis involves inflammation Demyelination of the optic nerve slowed signal transmission and visual disturbances. This is significant because it demonstrates myelin integrity directly affects visual signal conduction. Are you getting bad eyes? Conduction speed and visual processing. It's a real thing, real correlation. Myelin increases the speed of electrical transmission through saltatory conduction. When myelin is disrupted, signal latency increases. It slows down, basically. Processing slows down. The visual contrast sensitivity may decline. Visual evoked potentials, VEPs they're called, are often used to measure conduction delays and demyelinating conditions. I mean, these are all tested theories. These are all what they know is actually true. These tests show that slowed vision processing can reflect impaired myelination. So if you have some slowed vision processing, that could mean the myelin on your axons is starting to diminish, deplete, wear down, break up, get eaten up by your blood cells. Who knows, But there's ways to find out. So retinal nerve fiber layer is what we're going to talk about here. The retinal nerve fiber layer, studies demonstrate that thinning of this retinal nerve fiber layer correlates with white matter changes in the brain. The white matter is not what causes memory loss. That's just where the myelin sheath has been frayed or goes away or is injured, and then it ends up leaving white matter behind. It's a good indicator of memory loss and how much in the past, but I'm looking at present. I want to know present. What's happening in my brain? What's happening in your brain? This is going to help you know what you need to do before it's too late. The retina provides a non-invasive window into neurodegeneration, axonal loss, and myelin-related pathology. This has led researchers to describe the retina as a window to the brain. It's really true. By the way, I was going to have Dr. Patricia Broderick on the show when we did this topic today, but unfortunately, God rest her soul, she did pass away last weekend. So I'm doing it because this is one of the shows she wanted to do, and I know she would want me to do the show. So in her memory, this is for her. So why does all this matter for memory? With everything we're exposed to, the environment, technology, chemicals in our foods, efficient memory depends on fast signal conduction. Can we have that if the myelin sheath is injured, is frayed? It also relies on neural timing and intact white matter pathways. If myelin health is compromised, conduction slows and cognitive efficiency declines. The eyes may therefore serve as an early indicator of broader white matter vulnerability. So many different researchers, by the way, we put the research information at the end of the script if you want to see what that is, okay? It should be there. So visual changes do not automatically indicate systemic demyelination. So just because you've got maybe decreased vision scenario, it doesn't mean that it is the demyelination process in your brain. Doesn't mean that, but if you have memory loss, this is something that may be an indicator that it needs to be looked at a little more thoroughly. So myelin health is influenced by many factors, including genetics, inflammation, metabolic health, and immune regulation. By the way, Dr. Broderick was the neuroscientist who taught in the medical school at Harvard University. She was also an inventor, was up for a Pulitzer Prize even. I mean, she was an amazing scientist. And she told me, and this is why she wanted to do it, she says there is no actual Alzheimer gene. Now, I'm still looking into that. I'm going to check all of her research as well and let you guys know. So anyways, we're going to take a commercial break. When we return, we'll examine how environmental stressors, including sleep loss and inflammation, shape the memory's biology. We'll be right back.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to Medical Intuitive Insights. Our topic today, memory, myelin, environment, and technology. And when we say myelin, I'm talking about the myelin sheath around the axon and the neurons in your brain. Direct indicator, we just went through this. We explained what the neurons are in your brain, what the myelin sheath is. If that myelin sheath is fraying or starting to just diminish, it actually makes it harder in practical way. It actually makes it harder to remember things, and that your eyes are directly correlated to your central nervous system. So your vision can actually be a sign of that, one of the first signs. Not always a sign of that, but it's something that your doctor may want to check if you're having memory problems on top of it. So in this segment, we're going to talk about environmental influences on the memory. So I'm looking at the practical world, and this is something all of us can probably relate to on a daily basis: chronic stress and hippocampal structure. So stress affects our mind. That's all there's to it. It affects everything, even sleep. Chronic stress is one of the most consistently documented disruptors of memory. Elevated glucocorticoids, or cortisol, that's what I always call it, cortisol. It impairs hippocampal neurogenesis and reduced dendritic complexity. And by the way, that's a research study by McEwen 2017. He had shown that whole path and how it works. Wonderful study. There are going to be the references at the end of the program. They will be in the, when you go to pull it up in YouTube, you'll get to read the script. It's always at the end of the script. Look at some of those references. If you're having problems, be self-sustainable. You can go in and you can actually try to help your doctors figure out what's going on. Okay, and maybe there's a few things you can do. I'm going to try and give you some things here today as well, especially after the next commercial. So in a mechanical view, cortisol alters glutamate signaling. It's just the signaling, it alters it. So it increases excitotoxic vulnerability. Cortisol, it kind of makes your body go into fight or flight. It works in the brain as well the same way. So it can increase the excitotoxic vulnerability of the brain cells themselves. That could be one of the indicators or one of the causes of that myelin sheath going away. I'm a high cortisol person. I'm always constantly doing. And when I'm constantly doing things back and forth, I know my cortisol goes up. So I know I need more rest. I need to stop. I need to think. okay, time to sit down and just chill, zen out for a few moments, folks. It impairs, even in these short spurts that I get, it impairs long-term protection of the brain, of the myelin sheath and all that, and the hippocampus especially. It is especially vulnerable due to its dense glucocorticoid receptor population. Chronic stress does not just affect mood, it alters brain architecture. I love that term, brain architecture, because it's not just one thing. We're not just talking about these little neurons. We're talking about how it correlates to everything in your brain and how it all works in synchronicity. It's synchronized. So memory can move along as necessary in your recall and things of that nature. So one of the biggest problems of anything going on with brain is neuroinflammation. It interferes with synaptic plasticity. You can't be like this if it's swollen and it's slowing everything down. And the long-term potentiation of damage can be very exponentially increased with neuroinflammation. And you probably think, oh, I haven't hit my head lately, so I don't have any brain swelling or whatever, but not necessarily brain swelling. It could be just swelling in general in your body. If you're swollen anywhere in your body, that gets in, those chemicals get in your bloodstream and can swell you up everywhere. You'll be like, God, my face is so swollen this morning. What? My hands are swollen. I think I had another show on that topic too. You may want to take a look at that one. So, but neuroinflammation and synaptic plasticity actually are correlated to and fro. It's whenever you have that neuroinflammation, it's going to affect your synaptic response and how those messages cross. Inflammation interferes directly with memory consolidation when that happens. Pro-inflammatory cytokines such as beta-1, TNF, alpha can disrupt synaptic plasticity and inhibit LTP. That's just another study at the bottom. If you're interested in reading that in extended scenario, you go ahead, tap into that, look at those references. They're APA formatted. They should be fine. Try to find out what is going on with you or your parent or somebody in your family. Okay, systemic inflammation though. Let's get back to that. It's systemic inflammation. It can be anywhere in your body, crosses the blood-brain barrier, and you have a sheath around your brain, around your spinal cord, and it can actually cross through there and get into your brain, no matter where it is. It activates the microglia. It increases oxidative stress. It impairs neurotransmitter balance. It impairs everything. After all, if it's inflamed, like I said, how are the messages going to get through? It's that congestion again. We did one on topic of congestion in your body and the tissue and everything else. Inflammation causes congestion, and then it gets in your brain and it causes congestion, and because things get trapped there too, because they can't get cleared out like they should be. Chronic neuroinflammation has been implicated in cognitive aging and neurodegenerative risk. Now, why is that? Well, as you age, you're not getting as good of circulation throughout your body. Maybe it's cellular regeneration and rejuvenation. I have my December 2026 is going to be in the Mayan Riviera. Call me, come join us. You'll learn more and more about how to actually reverse aging. They say you can't reverse aging. I don't know about that. I do believe I've seen things increase cellular regeneration, and to me that's reversing aging. If you can increase cellular regeneration, you're pushing back that clock. It's wonderful, and there's different ways to do that. But inflammation disrupts timing, and memory depends on precise timing. Is this dendrites going to be pushing those messages through the axiom and out and then to another dendrite? Are they going to be doing it quickly, or is it going to be, wait, where do I go? What crosses the blood-brain barrier? Something to consider. There are chemicals in our environment, in our food. I have shorts on this. You can go into my site, look at the shorts. One is on glycol, one's on doxacetyl. I have several others there. Look at them, glycol, doxacetyl. It actually enables not just that itself to go through your blood-brain barrier, but it always gets piggybacked by other things, bad chemicals in your body, for instance, things that can damage the brain cells, for instance. Glycol can damage, it's an alcohol. Whenever it ends in COL, it's an alcohol. And it's a thinner alcohol than, say, it's like, rubbing alcohol versus vodka. Rubbing alcohol is less dense. Glycol is a less dense alcohol, so it crosses the blood-brain barrier very freely, more so than vodka and whiskey and what some people drink. And the glycol can damage it because it can get into those neurons more easily as well. So another thing that can actually harm the neurons are sleep and memory consolidation things. Sleep is essential for consolidating memory traces. When you dream, your body goes over different things, and when you sleep, and it's like embedding it into your memory better, or things that have happened, and things pop up while it's doing it because things get mixed up and you end up with these weird dreams sometimes, or maybe you'll dream about something else that happened years ago, or things happen, but you need that sleep and memory consolidation. Deep slow wave sleep allows hippocampal relay and cortical integration. It'll replay and relay it more easily to the core and within the cortical area. Sleep loss impairs learning efficiency and glyphatic clearance. Let's check that. Sleep is not passive, it is restorative and regulatory. You must sleep enough for your brain to restore itself. Okay, please remember that. Sleep, glymphatic function, and myelin sheath, are they related? Yes. Sleep is not passive, it's restorative and regulatory. Okay, during slow wave sleep, hippocampal replay consolidates memory. We talked about that. Glyphatic systems increase. Interstitial clearance of metabolic waste also increases. The glyphatic system clears beta amyloid plaques, metabolic byproducts, hopefully from your food. That would be great. Oxidative debris it clears, hopefully from the chemicals and everything else in your environment. Chronic sleep restriction reduces glymphatic efficiency and increases inflammatory signaling. There's that word again, inflammatory, inflammation. Sleep also supports precursor activity contributing to myelin maintenance. So sleep is one of the number one things you have to do. Sleep protects both memory encoding and white matter integrity. For further information on memory, see my video on Alzheimer's disease, Love Beyond Memory. I'd like to see, do we have enough time? Yeah, I'm going to take one more minute here. This is one of my shields. Black currant syrup. I buy it. Don't have to refrigerate it. Set it on the counter. Put it in hot water. What do you think I'm sipping on? It's like a very weak black currant. We'll get into that in the third section. Interesting stuff. There's a lot of things you can do to protect your neurons in your brain and the myelin sheath. I was born with very little myelin sheath on all my nerves. I was shaking a lot when I was born. And the doctors told me her myelin sheath is not, she's missing it on her tips of her nerves and her fingers and everything. So I am very astute with myelin sheath. I take lecithin from time to time. I don't ignore fats. I actually eat fats. The brain is mostly fat, so I will definitely keep that up. But I don't have I'm not a big carb eater. I have whole vegetables and things like that. But as far as carbs, no. And the reason is carbohydrates become sugar in your bloodstream, and I don't want to have too much sugar in my bloodstream at once. So I don't. That's how I do that. Hopefully I'll never be diabetic. Who knows? I guess time will tell. In the meantime, when we return, we'll discuss 5G, radio frequency exposure, and what scientific literature actually demonstrates. Stay right there. You're not going to want to miss this. We all live it. We'll be right back.
Master of words, powerful player, What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom, purpose, passion, power, and peace. All quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously, with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
Welcome back. In this segment, we look at blue light, technology, and the circadian disruption. So, everybody is exposed to different things. So let's talk about the blue light and how it affects our circadian disruption. Circadian, it's like the rhythm of which you sleep and you're awake. It's like an internal schedule, when you need to sleep, when you shouldn't sleep, when you should sleep. Okay, blue enriched evening light suppresses melatonin secretion and shifts the circadian timing. Now, this is a big problem for me because even last night I was on till the computer until like 12:30, and then I was just so tired I fell asleep. Not good. Shame on me. I should not be doing that, but it influences the melatonin, the sleep architecture. Remember that? Yeah, see, I'm not perfect. I do things too. So sleep architecture, antioxidant regulation, and mitochondrial protection. Circadian misalignment is associated with impaired cognitive performance and decreased work memory efficiency. So when you don't get enough sleep, that's why you're so tired when you go to work. You drink some coffee and you just can't wake up, even with the coffee. But, the coffee does have, in spite of what you're seeing now on the internet, research studies have proven coffee is a diuretic because of the caffeine, and it doesn't take a whole lot. So I don't like that I'm hearing AI say, oh yes, you can drink 3 cups and it's not a diuretic. That's not true. I don't know who programmed that in. I need to reprogram that, and I will be doing that within the next month. So additionally, excessive evening light exposure may disrupt retinal photoreceptor signaling, influencing hypothalamic circadian regulation. Very important. Cognitive fragmentation and digital multitasking. I do that all the time. I'm zipping from one program to the next and flipping back and forth. Frequent task switching reduces sleep encoding. That's my problem. And hopefully it's not yours. And if it is, I think we both work on it, okay? Multitasking correlates with reduced sustained attention and working memory performance. You ever at work, okay, yes, I'll do that. And then you're like eating lunch and you're like, somebody asks you a question about what you just did and you're like, what did I do? But you don't want to say it. That's what I'm talking about. Neuroimaging studies show that chronic digital overload may reduce gray matter density in the anterior cingulate regions associated with cognitive control. So the issue may not be technology exposure alone, but chronic, and I did say chronic, attentional fragmentation. Memory requires depth. Technology often promotes speed over depth. Then there's 5G and radio frequency exposure, radio frequency electromagnetic fields. They've been widely studied, although the WHO, the World Health Organization, in 2020, and the International Commission on Non-Ionized Radiation Protection have not consistently found that exposure levels within the current safety standards are associated with cognitive impairments in humans. It's interesting that I'm finding studies abroad in Europe and Russia and other countries, it's just the opposite. Most of the studies here in the United States have been done on animals, and that's why they're saying that even though they see the myelin sheath damage is severe, and they result in fraying, loose or disorganized lamellae structure and neural cells and things of that nature. Interesting though. But in other countries, they did come out with that. And some of the studies I found from the NIH before, I can't find now. Where did it go? Where did it go? It's not there. That's interesting. I'm still going to dig for it, definitely. 5G specific findings. Studies on 3,500 megahertz, which is 5G frequency, have shown increased oxidative stress, higher levels of malonyl or whatever, and structural changes in the auditory cortex, including layered damaged myelin sheaths in animal models. And you know this is a U.S. study, most likely. It's all animal models. Mechanisms of injury, the damage is believed to be linked to increased oxidative stress, which causes neural toxicity and in some cases triggers autophagy, a cellular repair or destruction mechanism. They self-destruct. And there's apoptosis, where the one cell will eat the other cell if it's going to self-destruct. You know, the different things that we talked about on other shows again. Nerve cell impact studies on high-level radiation have shown damage to the Schwann cells. Remember we talked about what those were? Those were those sections of the myelin sheaths on the axion. It's responsible for producing the protective myelin sheath around the nerves. This can lead to axonal degeneration and slowed nerve signal speed. You know, when things are damaged, things just don't want to work like it should. Vulnerability in children, the myelin sheaths in children's brains are particularly vulnerable. This they have come out with. This is the one thing they left online. It says their brain development, including myelination, is ongoing, and their skulls are thinner, allowing deeper penetration of radiation. That's kind of scary. How many people right now do you have Wi-Fi at your house? You know, by the way, we have a guest here today. Let's see if we can get her on. Her name is Janet. So I had some questions for Janet. She's actually my guinea pig today, and I'm her guinea pig. So I'm going to ask her questions. She can ask me questions. So this will be nice. We think you got on. I know she was having a few computer problems. Let me just double check and make sure that I think she's still coming on.
I think I'm here. Can you
there
hear
you
me?
are. Okay, is your camera on?
I never turned it off, so I don't know how. I'm
That's
on my
okay.
phone.
That's okay. On the phone is fine. And I wanted to ask you, we were talking about 3 different main things. One is blue light with technology and things, and there's 5G and just,
Here we go.
yeah. Do you work on the computer?
Can you see me
later?
now?
I don't, but that's okay. The engineer, when he can, he'll put you through. And if not, that's fine. We have you on online verbally here. So one of the questions I have for you is, whenever I call you, it seems like you're either on the computer or not, but it can be any time of the day or night. I know I work a lot at night on the computer. Are you doing that too?
Yes, I am.
Typical American. Yeah, typical American. And we were talking about how that disrupts the circadian rhythm, the timing in your brain. So your sleep architecture is going to be skewed or off balance. The antioxidant regulation will be in the mitochondrial protection. That can lead to memory problems, and that's one of my big concerns with me anyways, and I know with you I wouldn't want anything to happen to you. What about, do you have 5G? Do you have Wi-Fi in your house?
Yes, I do. And I mean to turn it off at night, and I usually don't remember. Well, actually, I do remember, but sometimes I leave it on. I always leave it on purposely because I listen to meditations while I sleep, and I haven't downloaded them to just do from my computer. I'll have to do
Mhm.
that because I was
Um,
turning it on and off, and off at night and on in the morning, and I don't feel the difference, but I'm sure it was helping me doing that.
this is why I smile, because you are the typical American. You know you should do it, but you don't, because just things come and go and
Right.
you're busy and this and that, and you just forget. And that's what happens. Hi, Janet. Now everyone can see you. Thank you. But this is
Oh,
typical.
good,
This is
good.
what happens. It's just unplug it and then plug it back in the morning. She's going to try downloading her audio sounds and everything, and put it on her computer and just run off the computer without the Wi-Fi.
Mhm.
And Wi-Fi is the biggest culprit. If you figure you're sleeping, basically, I'll just say 8 hours. I don't sleep 8 hours, but a lot of people do. If you're sleeping 8 hours, that's 8 hours of every day that you will not have that going through your brains. You may still have some from the towers around you, but we want to protect that myelin sheath, and that's how we would do it. And that's what we just have to do. So,
Mhm.
how do you sleep though?
I sleep wonderfully. I have no problem sleeping at all. So
Wow.
I don't know if it's
Oh, but
affecting
I
me or
believe you
not,
were
but
talking about you do protection things for your brain, right? Like you try to
well,
like
I
you take
have
different things.
someone gave me some device that they don't even make anymore, and it's supposed to be for that. So that's right next to it. And I actually covered my router in heavy duty aluminum foil because I'm a tin foil hat wearer. And I have things on my phone and my computer. Yes, I do have things that you put on your phone and computer that are, deflect the or somehow reduce the EMF field. So
Right, right.
I am
I think
taking
one of the
protection.
right. I think one of the biggest culprits, and I know everybody probably knows somebody that does it. They take their laptop, they set it on their lap, and they're busy typing away, say on the sofa or whatever. I use one of those sunblocker sheets that you use for the car, and it's the foil one. And I fold it and I put it on
Oh,
top of that, because then it has some deflection of the waves going in my lap. But there's different things that people can do. Turning off the Wi-Fi though is, I think, the biggest thing you can do in your home at night, especially
mhm.
if you have children, and that they did say that it will affect their myelin sheaths. So we need our
Oh,
kids
no.
to have good memory, because they're going to leave the world someday. We'll be gone, and they'll still be here. We need them to be smart as a whip, and that
Yes.
would be an actually wonderful thing. Um, so some of these in vitro animal studies examined oxidative stress pathways under high exposure levels, but epidemiological data in humans do not demonstrate a reliable causal association. And why is that? That's only here in the United States. And that's because they won't do the studies. Every study that they want to do, because I was in pharmaceutical research for 8.5 years, and every study they want to do, they need to send in to the FDA a description of the study with all the details and how they're going to go about it and their approach and what they're looking for. And the FDA needs to approve it. They don't
Mm.
approve all of them. So there's a
Ah,
reason, there's an agenda, just like every news broadcast, they have an agenda setting circumstance, and every medical community has an agenda. Everybody has an agenda out there. So I look at other studies from different countries as well. China, Japan. Oh, a lot of good studies coming out of Japan. Very good studies. Um, but even India has some good studies. You need to look at those. Okay. EMF is non-ionizing radiation, meaning it lacks sufficient energy to directly damage DNA in the way ionizing radiation can, but it can directly affect the myelin sheaths. And I know here in the States, it's the rats and the mice that they did the experiments, but there were other experiments that they did, or clinical studies they did on humans. I'm not seeing them now, but that doesn't mean they're not there. So,
right.
responsible communication requires distinguishing public concern about established causality. And that's where we come in. Janet is a spokesperson like for everybody. If we can get somebody to do a call to action, matter of fact, this is my call to action, to find other universities that will actually do a human study on the myelin sheath and get some of that real information back on board and on the internet so people can look at it. So anyway, we are going to take a third commercial break. When we return, we'll explore research-based strategies to protect memory in the modern age. Stay right there. We'll be right back.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Master of words, powerful player. What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom, purpose, passion, power, and peace. All quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously, with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life.
Welcome back. In this segment, we're going to discuss advanced resolutions. We now move from prevention, informational prevention, to protection. So myelin support, we have nutrition, we have other things. By the way, I just wanted to mention on your cell phone, you can go into settings, and through settings, you can go into, now this is an Android phone. So if you don't hear it from me, you can check online. You go through settings, and then you can go to, let's see, what was the last one? I'm in Samsung Legal, and then I looked at health and safety information. So I click on health and safety information. I'm going to click span English, and then radio frequency signals. It'll actually tell you the safe distance from your head. Mine is like a 3/4 of an inch, but you don't talk like this on your phone. You talk with it against your head. So my suggestion, speakerphone. I don't really have much of a private life, so speakerphone is what I do, and that's just what I do 90% of the time. So check your individual phone. It's very important, especially your children's phones, and talk to them. It's fine. It's up to you whether they have a phone. If they have a phone, they'll make sure that they know to not have it up to their head unless you tell them something. You want to tell them something in private, just tell them, take me off the speakerphone. They can then talk to you quickly. You can say what you need to say. Check your phones though, okay? So myelin supportive nutrition. Myelin is a lipid-rich substance. So nutrients associated with white matter integrity include omega-3 fatty acids, B12 and folate, choline. These are all scientific studies that came out with that. Scholarly based industry studies. B12 deficiency is well documented in demyelination neuropathies. In other words, people with dementia, what I'm noticing is all the elderly people I work with, they seem to, on their blood tests, I'm noticing they have low B vitamins. Some of them aren't even near the normal values. and it's like their body's not absorbing vitamin B. There are places now in the United States you can get B vitamin infusions. I know that because Nurse Peggy from Holistic Nurse, that's what she does. And she does different infusions, and that's one of the types of things she does. Natural infusions, which are great. So it really would help to, get some blood tests. Everything you see here or here, you really should check with your medical professional. That can be anybody you want. It could be your chiropractor. It could be your nurse practitioner. It could be whoever you trust that knows what this is all about. That's up to you. In self-sustainability, that's what we talk about. You need to help sustain yourself. You can't expect to go in a doctor and expect him to know everything about your life. It doesn't work that way. So give them the information. Say, look, is this possible? Let them look at it. And they'll be like, and you can tell them. It can be a discussion. So B12 deficiency. So taking B12 is a big thing. Do you take vitamins, Janet?
Not as consistently as I should. I have a multiple, and I've got a B complex, and C is probably the one I take the most. I have a powder that I mix in yogurt, and I have tablets that I found. But I take a lot of other things too. The D3 and the magnesium and the K1 and K2.
Right. Right. So I know that one of the research, the NIH did a research study in the last few years, and they did it on, I believe it was bilberry or black currant berries. And they also, said, well, if we can get it past the blood-brain barrier, that it can help repair the myelin sheath and actually protect it. They're cold environment berries that they have a protection. They're found in the northern region 1. So that berry, they said if they can, team it up with eucalyptus, it'll cross the blood-brain barrier. So hence, I'm using black currant today. But it actually repairs the myelin sheath, and it protects it from getting all these types of diseases, and memory loss type of things and being eroded. So protect your sleep, maintain consistent sleep schedules, reduce evening blue light, protect your circadian rhythm, reduce chronic stress, reduce inflammation. Whole foods, by the way, very good for you. I believe in the non-lectin diet, no seeds, no nuts, tomatoes, potatoes, corn, no. And no poisons on my food. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to do it. Healthy lipids, B vitamins, adequate sleep, reduced oxidative stress. That's it right there. White matter integrity supports cognitive processing speeds. So you really should. I'd take lecithin too. So coming in March, bioenergetic reset, the cellular regeneration protocol. It's a live 2-hour intensive. It is a recalibration session. So it will work for the ones that want to apply it. It will help in certain ways. It is a live Q&A after it as well. 715-892-7500. Remember, memories thrives in safety, sleep, stability, reduced overload, protecting the wiring, protect the rhythm, protect the environment that allows your brain to rest and repair. Memory is not just about neuron firing. It's about insulation, preserving, and precision. This is Medical Intuitive Insights. I'm Dr. Warren. Thank you, Janet, for being here.
Oh, thank you, Dr.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome. It's always a pleasure. Honor your brain. It is listening. By the grace of God, may we steward it wisely. God bless you all. Until next time.
This has been Medical Intuitive Insights with host Dr. Gloria Warren. Tune in each week as Gloria shares over 40 years of experience and yearns to provide knowledge derived from intuition and research. Wednesdays, 2 p.m. Eastern.